Hi, guys, and welcome to Keep Hope Alive. My name is Nadine, and we are already on Steven. So I can't even talk. Season 7, and we're getting ready to jump over to 8 very quickly. Also, we have Michelle Hall here. Hi, Michelle. She is
Hello.
our guest speaker for today, and she has been through so much. This lady is a true warrior. But before we get started on that, Michelle, I'm going to ask you really, really quick. In the last 15 years, how many weddings have you been to?
One.
One. Okay. So usually when it's a ceremony, you go in, you you see that guest book, right? It's right there. You have to sign it. It lets the couple know that, hey, you guys were there for that event. Well, lifeonrecord.com came up with this great new thing. It is a vintage rotary phone that they put there. So the guest can pick it up and leave a message for the couple. So you could be like, hey, congratulations, or it's about time you finally got married. Either way, they get that message. They do have a QR code scanning right there, so you can use your phone and scan it so you can leave that message before the event or even after the event. And then once all those messages are collected, they will burn it on a 12-inch vinyl record, or they put it in this little boom box. So I guess a year later, you can take that out and listen to all the voices and everything just like that. So, but their plans only start at $99 and you get that phone number for a year. So I want you guys to check them out at www.lifeonrecord.com. All right, well, let's dive right in, Michelle. I guess, kind of looking over everything that you've been through. I'm gonna just start it out. Who is Michelle? Tell us your background story.
Well, I do have a lot that I've been through in my life, and particularly as a child. Um, I am currently a life coach, and I work with women survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And I work with those women because I myself was a victim of sexual abuse when I was around 10 years old. And I was victimized by two cousins with whom I grew up with. And I kept that a secret. I kept that a secret for many years, probably around 30 plus years. I was well into my 40s when when I really began to deal with it. And at the time that happened, I had also been through some other things prior that had already led me to, low self-worth, low self-esteem. Um, I am a fatherless daughter. I don't know who my father is, never had a father figure in my life. And that weighed on me heavily as a child because I really wanted to know who my father was. And I was just never able to get that answer. And also, I was born with a birth defect in my right eye, and so it's a bit lazy. And that caused me to be bullied and picked on when I was a kid in school. Kids can be very cruel. And
Yes.
so that didn't help. So I had that. And then also as a kid, I used to stutter a whole lot. So that also was part of the bullying that I experienced. So I dealt with a lot as a young child coming
Mhm.
up, and then to be victimized and violated by two very close family members was just it kind of felt like the nail in the coffin that just really, I think it just really solidified the low self-esteem and the low self-worth. And I just kind of just kind of felt like, you know, why me? Why did this happen to me? All of these things. And I really just internalized all of that. I didn't have an outlet, and I internalized all of those things and just wanted to move forward as if things didn't bother me, as if I didn't feel the pain. And I was able to do that for quite a while, put on a good face, go on through life. But inside, I was really, really miserable,
Mhm.
unhappy, and not feeling good about myself. I really just didn't have, a good sense of self because I spent so much time and energy trying to protect my secret, trying to protect my image, not wanting people to know what I was really feeling inside. And that just, that was how I lived for many, many years, up until I had a tiny bit of courage and I shared my sexual abuse with my now ex-husband. I shared it with him. I was still married at the time. And I was petrified to tell him. I didn't know what kind of response I would get from him. We had been married for we had been married for probably 20 years at that time, or
Mhm.
going on that. But he was so supportive, and that gave me the strength and the courage to get help. And that's when things started to turn around for me, was when I was able to share that with him and get into counseling to start turning this thing around. And I'm so very thankful for that.
Yeah, yeah, that's very good that you had him as a source to talk to, because that's a hard thing to even bring up, and
Yes.
say, hey, I've been through this, and there's so many different emotions you were going through. I mean,
Yes.
you held that in for a very long time. So,
Yes.
I mean, I look at it also as like, how many years were you holding on to it? The healing structure, it just feels like, you know, going through that. I know somebody who also went through it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's taken a while, and I feel like it's something that just does not go away. You can do as much reading and counseling and healing and journaling, and I mean, you still need to have a good cry, let
Mhm.
it out. But you've been through that, and then you mentioned you grew up fatherless,
Yes.
so you didn't know who your dad was. And oh my
Right. And I
gosh,
and I still don't. And I still don't. I am 55 years old, and I still don't know. And it's just something that, I carried that for so long, and I was angry about not knowing, because I firmly believe that every child deserves to know who their mother and father are.
yeah, yeah,
And
agreed.
I just didn't, I couldn't get that information. And I was angry about it. I was hurt about it. And it made me feel, like I was less than, because I didn't know. And when I was going through the counseling, when I was able to share the sexual abuse, you know, I thought I was going to counseling to deal with that, but
Hmm.
it really became uh, a reconciliation of my entire life. I felt like I had to go back, all the way back into my childhood, and deal and feel the feelings and deal with the things that I had been holding on to, that I had not shared with people. And so it really turned into a process where I had to go back and deal with um the hurt and the pain of not knowing who my father is. And I had to deal with the hurt that I got from being bullied. And so it was a lot, so much that I had to deal with. And then also, I had been married for 20 years, and there was issues in the marriage as well. And so I just really felt like I just had to go back and kind of work with all of that stuff. And that's kind of how my mind worked. My background is in accounting, numbers, and I think in a very logical way. And the only way that I could really think to deal with those things was to go back and do it in a chronological way. So I just kind of had to go back and just pull all of those things that I had held on to, and that I had not shared, and that I had not really dealt with within myself. And so it was about I was in counseling probably about 3 years, just kind of working through all of those things. I just really, for me, I think I just really needed to talk it out because I
Yeah.
had been silenced for so long. And I know of other victim survivors who need different types of therapy, different types of care, because sexual abuse affects people in similar ways, but in different ways. And so
Hmm.
everyone doesn't need the same thing. For me, I just felt like I had been silenced for so long. And that was me, of course. And
Hmm.
I just really felt like I just needed to talk through everything. And that's what I did. I would go to my counselor's office and she would ask me questions and everything, but I would just talk things that I had just never been able to verbalize. I
Yeah.
would talk those things through. And some meetings I would sit in her office and I would cry the whole time. I would, because I just had to purge. I just really felt like I
Yes.
needed to purge. And so, that's just what I had to do. And, once I was able to do that, and I am a woman of faith, and I did a lot of praying during that time, on this specific, counseling journey that I was on, because I was so ready. I was so ready to release all of this stuff because I had held on to it for so long and it became such a huge burden. And so I just prayed and I was like, Lord, just let me work through this, help me get through it, because I don't want to carry this anymore. And so it was such a freeing experience. It was painful, but
Hmm.
it was well worth it. And I just feel so much lighter as a result of having it off my chest and off my heart.
So I want to ask you, because maybe somebody's listening to this episode, uh, how would you encourage somebody who went through this, but they haven't opened up? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that it is worth the pain to share it. I would certainly suggest they find someone that they feel very safe with, whether it be a
Hmm.
friend or a family member or a counselor or a coach, someone with whom they really feel safe with, and to be able to share to speak it, to share their experience with someone who's not going to judge them, who's not going to ask them weird questions like how did you let this happen, or why didn't you tell when. We have reasons for not telling. And
Hmm.
when you open up to someone, you really want to feel safe. And
Hmm.
I've talked with women survivors who tried to talk to someone and the response was similar to that. Why didn't why did you wait so long? And sometimes that they may not mean harm, but it can
Hmm.
cause harm because
Yeah.
it doesn't feel safe. So I would certainly encourage them to find someone that they feel safe with and share their story, whatever they need to share. When I have women on my podcast, I allow them to tell as little or as much as they want to, because it's their story, and I
Hmm.
want them to feel comfortable sharing their story, and just share as much or as little as they feel like doing at that time. And I think as you move forward and you feel, you truly feel safe, then you can release more and talk more about it to be able to release that burden that they're carrying. But definitely, I think it has to be dealt with.
Yeah, definitely. So, what is the name of your podcast?
My podcast is named Broken to Blessed,
I
and
like
it is
it.
targeted specifically to women survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And the point of it is to encourage, inspire, and empower women
Yeah.
who are on a healing journey or want to start a healing journey. Um, because the goal is to move beyond surviving, you
Hmm.
know, because you can be a survivor and still have troubles as it relates to that event that happened in your life whenever you were a child. So, I work with women on the personal development side, such as building their self-esteem and building confidence and self-worth, because we tend to put limits on ourselves as a result of that happening, and a lot of times women don't even realize that they're doing that. So, my goal is to help them realize that um, sexual abuse is something that happened to you. It's not who you are, and that
Mm-hmm.
just because it happened to you, that doesn't limit you. Because I felt
Yeah.
limited for such a long time, and that is not their fault. A lot of women still blame themselves for what happened to them. So I really work with them to help them get back to themselves, and to
Mm-hmm.
um and to recognize what's limiting them in their lives, so that they can, really, go after goals that they are truly worthy of.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, from day to day and their routine, I mean, I know it can affect with the routine or even jobs, or if something happens somewhere and it becomes a trigger that reminds them of what they've been through. It's kind of like a shutdown pattern, and that's hard also. So when I'm just diving in there asking questions. When you get triggers like that, what's the best method to kind of be like, everything's going to be okay? I'm going to get through this. How do you handle that?
um Honestly, at this point, I don't really get triggers at this point. I
Okay.
really, when I was doing the work, when I was working with the counselor, like I said, I was really ready to let all of this stuff go, face it and deal with it, you know. So I honestly don't have triggers, but I know a lot of women do. And I
Yeah.
I think that's where that work comes in. That's where that inner work comes in, and
Hmm.
building their own self-worth, and just learning about themselves, and
Yeah.
who they truly are. Like I said, now some may require some extra work or some different type of therapies that are out there to help them with that. But I think it's different in every woman.
Yeah, definitely. So it's our journey, and we got to take one step at a time to find out what's the best. Yeah, I don't want to call it counseling all the time, but what the best steps are moving forward to move, get to your goals and everything and all
Right.
that. So my goodness.
And I think
Now,
just to speak on that again real quick,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
the what I've seen is working on your own self-worth, not focusing on the external things that has happened. Not saying that you're going to ever forget what happened, but I think focusing on yourself and figuring out who you are,
yeah,
and just learning and knowing and embodying that experience is not who you are. And that may sound like a simple statement, but it's hard for a lot of women to do that. It's hard for a lot of
hmm,
women to really do that, because they feel like, from, especially as children, when something like that happens, and they blame themselves. They're always looking for a place of safety, and they want to be accepted, and they want to be loved, and they want people to be happy with them. And so, if those things are not dealt with in childhood, then it goes into adulthood, and it
hmm,
affects the relationships that you have with people, because you're wanting people to like you, so you can go into people pleasing, or you feel like you're not worthy of certain things, so you don't apply for certain jobs, or you don't go, you don't try to foster relationships with certain people. um it's just a lot of things that the whole sexual abuse creates. It's not always the act itself that's terrible.
Yeah.
But the aftermath, what it does to your head, what it does in your mind, that carries on with you through your childhood into adulthood. And those are the things um that I work with, the
Yeah.
like I said, the self-worth and the self-esteem, and just learning who you are as a person.
Yeah. So learning, yeah, that's what I always teach on is learn who you are as a person to help you move forward and everything. So that's really important. Now, having the low self-esteem, um, can also, I mean, they say when your energy is low, it can also cause some health issues, but you want to be careful to maintain that as you're going through everything. So, um, you know, I don't want to say, but depression, here's just the thing, depression is really, really bad when you're going through this.
Yes.
And, I know here there's a number, I think it's across the United States, 988, that I tell people that if it ever came to like you wanting to hurt yourself, don't do it. Like people are here to listen and talk to and get through this. Even if it's this podcast, listen to it over and over and have that motivation because you know what? You're strong. You're a warrior. You're going to get through this step by step. So, but yeah, that 988 number is very important because if you need to be heard right away, and I know there's other people out there with numbers that they can call. That's the only one I know right now.
Yes,
So,
yes. There are a variety of hotlines that can listen. And like I said, when I was going through and working with my counselor, I just really wanted to talk everything through. I think one of the most important things for most people, not just women, not just people who have dealt with sexual abuse, people want to be heard. People want to be
yes.
heard, and they
Yeah.
want to feel like what they're saying is important, that they are important. And a lot of times as children, you're brushed off, because I grew up in my household, back in the day, it was children were to be seen and not heard. You didn't have a voice as a child. And
Yeah.
perhaps that's why I didn't tell. I'm not 100% sure what was going on in my 10-year-old brain as to why I didn't. But that's often a part of the problem, is that children don't have an outlet. They don't have an outlet, so that turns into other things. That turns into, for some it turns into drugs and alcohol. For some it turns into anxiety. For some it turns into depression. It's a lot of
Hmm.
things that can happen as a result when you don't have that outlet, when you don't have that voice. And
Yeah.
so I think people just really want to be heard. People want to
And they
know
need
that
to.
that
Yeah.
they that that they mean something.
Exactly. Exactly. And, with Keep Hope Alive podcast, I make that a strong thing. I would want everybody to be heard because everybody has a different journey. It may be the same thing, but how you handle it and how you even, I want to say there's joy, there's hope. We have challenges in life, but where's that medium and how do we get there? So is where I'm trying to aim so people can understand all that. So, but definitely, I mean, from, having this, I read that you became a Christian life coach after all this too. So tell me about that journey.
Yes, well, I've been a woman of faith. I've been a Christian for many, many, many years, and I knew that I wanted to help women who had experienced sexual abuse as children. Uh, I knew that before I was willing to share my own story. And of course, I did not pursue at that time because I didn't feel like I would be effective helping someone else if I couldn't even tell my own story. I felt like it would be a bit hypocritical. And so I kind of put that on the back burner because I honestly had no intentions of ever telling anyone that I had been abused. Um, but like I said, I got to a point where it was so heavy to where I needed to let that go. So once I got through that process, and once I had told my then husband, and went through the process, I got a lot of the healing that I needed from that, but I still wasn't ready to publicly tell my story because I still didn't tell my family. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell my sisters or anyone. So I contemplated how would I do this, and I honestly had said, well, Lord, I just don't think I'm going to be able to do this because I'm not putting this out. And but the Lord, in His comforting wisdom and knowledge of His children, brought the opportunity for me to share my story, and it was at that time that I was ready to pursue. So once I was able to put that story out and my family knew, I was ready. And so I got into the certification course, and that was when, that's when I started to move forward on this journey as a life coach.
That's good. That's good. There's like a light right there, and you grab the light and you're able to help educate other people. So that is really good. Now, there's two books also. Can you tell me about the books that I think you said you helped out, or did you write a
Yes.
piece in them? Okay.
Yes, I am a part of two anthologies. It is a series of books called Living in the Key of Joy.
Hmm.
And I wrote a story for volume 3 and for volume 4, both of which were released this year. In volume 3, I wrote a story very similar to what I shared with you, where I, talked about all of my childhood hardships and how I felt as I was experiencing those. And it was about, me on my self discovery journey. Very powerful story. First time, that I had really written it out and talked
Hmm.
about several aspects of my life. So that was very freeing for me to be able to put pen to paper on that
Yeah.
story. That's in volume 3. And in volume 4, that was released on December 18th, just recently,
Good.
I wrote a story about how I left my full-time job to do this coaching full-time.
Hmm.
It's a story about my path to becoming a CEO and president of my own company. And actually it tied back to something that I wrote in my high school memory book that I had forgotten that I had written. And I was going through some stuff in my closet, found the book, looked through it, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh. And I shared it with my son, and he was like, "Oh, mom, that's what you're doing." And I was like, "Oh, wow." And so that was my contribution to volume 4. And
Oh, that's
so
cool.
yeah, I am loving being an author, and I really do have plans to write my own solo book in 2024. So
Oh,
I
wow.
am I am I
Congratulations.
am looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
That's a big step. Like, I know I've interviewed authors and everything, and you know, I've been told everybody can write a book, but I'm just like, I need a ghostwriter still. And then I've been watching this thing on Netflix, Jane the Virgin, and I watched her because she's an author in the show. And I was like, I still look at her and go, I can't just sit there and just type and have things like come to me and put it down because I'm the one who'd be like, delete. I don't like that sentence, delete, and then starting over. But
Well,
that's,
that's what you have an editor for. So
yeah.
it was a really good experience to even write it. And I fully understand what you're saying because
Hmm.
I like to go back, I like to get everything down. I like to get my ideas down. And then I go back and I look and I want it to be in a certain order, and I want to
Yep.
put this up here and then, and that's for a small story. I don't know what it's going to look like for a big story.
Big story.
So it'll be interesting to say the least. But the way that I'm planning on doing the book is it'll be several stories within the book. They're my stories, but it'll be several different stories in the book. So maybe if I just focus on one at a time and get the one done, and then I can move on to the
Yeah,
next one and everything. So I'm excited about it. I'm so looking forward to getting started on it.
that is good. I ask all my authors, are you going to be putting it on Audible? Or is it just going to be a book to read?
Oh my goodness. I had not even thought about that. I don't know. Maybe I will read it myself. I don't know. Maybe I'll do the voiceover for it. I'm not sure.
Well, hey, that works. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So, but that was one thing I learned. I will read books, definitely, but I prefer the Audible because I just put my AirPods in and I just lay there and listen to the story being told
Yeah.
and gain the knowledge from it. But I don't know. So, but I like having the book in hand too. So it goes
Yeah.
both ways. So
Yeah.
definitely. But that's a good venture. I'm so happy for you. So you
Thank
got the
you.
podcast, you got the book, you're a coach. Are you doing this open and, pulling new clients in? How do you do this? Or do people just find you and come and talk to you?
Yes. Well, I will have slots available starting in January,
Okay,
where for some one-on-one clients. And I want to move forward in 2024 to create group coaching. I'm not doing groups right now. It's all one-on-one.
gotcha.
So if anyone is interested, they can go to my website, which is michellehall.co, and go to the services tab. There's a sign up for a wait list for when I open those slots, if they want to
Okay,
know when that opens. And I can reach out to them at the time that I am opening things up.
that's awesome. Now, guys, just remember with Keep Hope Alive, we have a phone number. If you have any questions for Michelle, you can call 833-780-HOPE, which is 4673, or you can leave a little message on our website at www.keephopealivepodcast.com and just tell, hey, I want her. Whatever you want to say to her, you leave that message. I'll get it over to her and we'll respond as quickly as we can. But also on our social media like Facebook and Twitter, I'll have all your information to reach out to you as well so they can do it that way
Great.
also.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
my goodness. And being bullied, I want to jump into that because, I haven't had many yet people come on to the show and talk about bullying. And I know one of my kiddos well, both of my kiddos have gone through it. And it's not nice. And we live in this world where, in today's age, I'm 45, but I look at these kids. I saw one thing going, it was a birthday party, and there was two girls. Can you believe she blew me up on social media too? Here, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. How dare she say this? I mean, if we had that back in the day for bullying, I probably have more panic attacks. I don't know. I don't know how I would handle that. But, bullying back in the day, like, it was hard to hear, and people want to come and beat you up for some stupid reason or call you names just because they could and they know it would hurt you.
Mhm.
So I remember my mom taught me to say sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Call me this, call me that, call me. I think it was like a big fat rat or something. I forgot the whole thing. But like I tried to keep that in my memory, like when I got bullied at school, so
Yeah.
it was hard. And there's different kinds of bullying. And you know, so the counseling that you were going to, you had to cover the bullying also in there as well, correct?
Yes. Yes. Because it is very hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
It was mainly, name calling, because of course, by the time I got to school, I was wearing glasses, and
Mm-hmm.
they were very thick glasses because my vision was impaired. And kids are just mean, so it was all kind of names, four eyes, and lazy eye, and all those types of things. And those things are, they it just hurts, it just does.
Words
And
always hurt. Yeah.
so, I just kept that pain. I just kept that pain inside. I just never shared it with anybody. And as a kid, I didn't know. I don't think I knew any different to tell anybody anything. I think I just thought that's how it was going to be. And
Yeah.
so, I just dealt with it and moved on. But it did hurt, and it kind of stuck with me. But it is very hurtful. So I have heard, and I've even said sticks and stones. I've said that myself, but that is not true. Words can chop you up. Words can
Oh, oh
truly,
yeah.
they can cut you deep. Um,
Exactly. That's the word I was looking for. It was like it
yeah,
embeds in you and you just
yeah,
sit with it and it feels like a heavy weight that you can't lift up.
right.
So that makes it a ton harder to just kind of push that out of the way. And I think as soon as you deal with a bully and talk to them, you know, I had a bully back in the day, and I stood up to her on my 10-year class reunion.
I bet it felt
Can't
good.
believe we're telling the world this, but thank God for Michelle and Romy's high school reunion show. It developed this courage that I can stand up to the people that hurt me the most. And what this person did was it was two people. They encouraged and pushed it out through the school like it was a smear campaign, marketing campaign. And it was just so, so wrong. But I remember being at the reunion. I had to go ladies' room and I'm in there and I hear, Nate, so nice to see you. Oh my gosh, it's me. Oh,
Well, I'm
can't
glad
tell
you
you
I'm
what I
glad you
said.
took that opportunity to stand up to her.
In front of the other girls in the, yeah, I did stand up to her. I was so proud of myself. Even though that it came at a later time, I she knows now it hurt me so bad. So it's not like I'm going to be besties with her on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. But you don't hurt people because, karma comes back. I'm sorry. It just does. And, you know, it's true, like in the industry I'm in also. If things ever go wrong with an event or a wedding and somebody's mean to somebody, for me, I've seen it so many times. There's one thing that will happen, and it's a karma related thing. So, whether you're mean to a vendor or something or somebody, you're getting in a fight with a family member, that one karma thing comes quicker for some reason. And I hate to laugh about it, but whether it's the cake falling or food not showing up or, something broke and it was expensive, you just be nice to everybody. Treat people the way you would want to be treated.
Right.
If somebody, I don't judge people. I don't ever want to do that. We're all an equal. So we have so much to offer to this world, and God made us who we are to get it out there in the world.
Yeah.
And, that's the important thing right there. So, but I loved interviewing you. You have an amazing, you've been through the health challenges also. The health challenges one really sticks out for a lot of people too on this podcast because they will go through the journeys and going through doctor to doctor and trying to figure out what is wrong. And I mean, have you been able to, has that come to a better standing? Like it's been corrected or even managed or
I think I have come to a point of surrender and acceptance.
yes. Okay, good.
And I think that is so important. I was telling my son, here during the holidays, we hosted family at the house yesterday,
Hmm.
and my garbage disposal got uh backed up. Thank goodness I was finished cooking by the time that happened. But I just I'm just at a point in my life to where I don't stress stuff that I don't have, that's not worth stressing over. Because
Good.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
okay at some point in time. It's gonna be all right. And earlier when I was putting up the tree, I had actually put this on my podcast that came out last week. When I put the tree up, I hadn't put my tree up in quite a while. And so since I was hosting, I was like, oh, I got to put everything up, and, I want everything to look pretty and everything. And
Yeah.
so I got my tree out and I plugged my tree in because it's artificial. There's three parts to it. And the bottom and the middle lit up and the top didn't. And I'm like, what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with this? And I just kind of let it sit there with nothing on it for like a couple days, because I was like, do I need to go buy another tree? Do I leave it like it is and have it be a conversation piece? Because it was
Hmm.
just family. It wasn't like I was having a whole bunch of people coming from
Yeah.
in there. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it be what it is. And so, a
Yeah.
couple days later, I went back and I plugged it in again, and lo and behold, the whole tree lit up.
Good.
And I was like, imagine that. So, 20 years ago, if I was hosting at my home and I was having people over, I would be like, oh, I'd be stressing out. Oh, I need
Yep.
another tree. It has to be perfect. It has to be this. It has to be that. But it doesn't have to be. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I am, I am, I think I'm much wiser in my middle age years. I'm going to say I'm middle aged, in my middle age years. And, there are things that are worthy of concern and maybe
Hmm.
free. Uh, but a lot of things that we tend to worry about are not really worth worrying over, is not
Oh,
worth
I know.
the time and the energy. And so, I'm learning to live stress-free, drama-free.
Hmm.
I don't like a whole bunch of mess going on in my life,
Hmm.
my home. And because I enjoy my peace. Peace is something that I got during this whole process of
Yep.
healing,
Yep.
and it feels good. It feels
It
good. So
does.
I try not to let much upset my peace and my joy, because I am loving life. I am loving
Good.
life. I am loving
Good.
where I am in life, and what I'm doing. I feel like what I'm doing is worthy of being,
Hmm.
because there are women out there who needs help.
Yes.
There are women out there who are, what I like to call it, being held hostage to an event that occurred many, many years ago. And I don't mean for it to sound like I'm trivializing it, because that is not at all what I'm doing. But it is something that women can deal with and work through and get beyond surviving. I want to
Yeah.
see women thriving, and I want to see women overcome the effects of what the sexual abuse did to them, so that they can live a life that is truly worthy of who they are and who God made them to be.
Exactly. Exactly. And finding that purpose, it's your next chapter to move forward. So enjoy life as it is now. Move
Yes.
forward. I'm not saying don't look at the past, but don't dwell on the past. Learn.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be something that you will
Hmm.
ever really forget. A lot of women don't have full memory of those
Hmm.
experiences, and I think for most women that's a good thing, because it can be hurtful, it can be triggering, but you know that it happened. And
Yeah.
I think we will always know that it happens, or that it happened, but we don't have to relive it, and
Yeah, definitely.
we don't have to stay in it.
Exactly.
We don't have to
Very
stay
true.
in it. So that is my hope, and that is the purpose of my work, is to help women realize that, and realize the limits that they've put on themselves, that
Yeah.
really does not belong there, and then help them
Yeah.
move forward, to gain a new self-concept, and then to help them set goals that are worthy of the person that they truly are.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, well, this has been informative. And I want you women to reach out to Michelle because she's going to be able to guide you in that right direction and everything. So I will have all her information on our Facebook page, Instagram, or TikTok. No matter wherever you find your podcast, you're going to find Keep Up Alive podcast. And I want to thank you so much for being a guest on our show today, too. Also, I do want to thank our other sponsors that make Keep Hope Alive entertaining and fun. We have Life on Record, the interactive guest book that we talked about it. So lifeonrecord.com. Check them out. We have Bridal Shows Inc.com. So if you're in the Dallas Fort Worth area in Texas and you're planning a special event or a wedding, you can check out their website. They will list all their trade shows, and so you can go and meet the vendors, get their pricing, and see what services they get to offer. Next, we have Miles and Smiles Events.com. Deborah Rose. Her background is investigation, but she's a handwriting analyst and she does the lipstick reading. She comes to events now and she has all different things that she can do. So it's a great consultation. Check her out also. Then we have Bryce Harney. So that would be www.brycemagic.com. He is a magician and mind mentalist. He is traveling all over the United States right now doing magic shows. He's one of the best out there. So check him out. We also have richmondpunch.net. He graduated from the Juilliard. He's a violinist. He's performed in front of 1 million people and he's extraordinary. Check out his work. And then we have TK Hair Salon in Plano, Texas. So with TK, they do everything. Your hair, they do the extensions, they do men's cuts, children's cuts. They're very professional. Check them out at tksalon.com as well. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. I hope you had a happy holiday too. So, I wanted to mention that to you as well. So,
Well, thank you
but
so
here
much
we
for
go.
having me on.
Yes, definitely. And I look forward to your book being done. And when it is, I want you back on and we're going to talk all about your book and everything.
Sounds wonderful. I would certainly love to come back and share my stories with your listeners.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. Until next time, love and light. Bye bye.